I want to give a special shout out to all my patrons, my Bibliosprand, Bibliohowlers, and Bibliomancers. Thank you so much for supporting my hobby and passion even more. It means so much to me. Hi everyone, Patek here. Welcome to another episode of SFF Spotlight. Today's video will be SFF Spotlight episode 16. And well, today, just like always, we have a lot of cover reveals, book news, and also special editions to talk about. To be more precise, there are about 20 spotlights to mention here, and the first 4, all of them are related to Brandon Sanderson. And these 4 announcements, all of them were announced at the Dragonsteel Con, and the first one is Defiant. Defiant is the 4th and final novel in the Skyward series, a series that I haven't read yet, but I promise that I will get to this series next year. So Defiant finally has a release date, and the release date for Defiant, the final book in the Skyward series, is November 21st, 2023. So it's more or less similar to The Lost Metal that was recently released. I haven't read much of Sanderson's YA novels, and I heard that out of all of his YA novels, Skyward is the greatest one. I hope that I will enjoy reading Skyward series as much as his adult fantasy novels. And the next news is about the Dragonsteel edition of the Alloy of Law and also the Shadows of Self. This is the first and the second book in Mistborn Era 2. So Brandon Sanderson and the Dragonsteel team have announced that it will be possible to pre-order the Alloy of Law and Shadows of Self on Cyber Monday, which is November 28th, and that is today. So if you're watching this right now, there is a good chance that the pre-order link is available now, and the first print run will be bundled at $150. So that means you will be able to get both the Alloy of Law and also the Shadows of Self, both of them at once at the price of $150. So after the first printing, it will be $100 each. So if you're planning to get yourself a copy of the Dragonsteel edition of the Alloy of Law and Shadows of Self, I think you should get it as soon as possible if it's within your reach. And the shipping will begin in January or maybe February. So there is no Kickstarter campaign for the Alloy of Law and also Shadows of Self Dragonsteel edition. These 2 books will be available to order starting from today at the Dragonsteel website. But moving on to the next news, Sanderson has announced that the Kickstarter campaign for the Words of Radiance, the Dragonsteel edition for Words of Radiance, which is the second book in the Stormlight Archive series, the sequel to The Way of Kings, will begin in March 2023. I think this one will be about the same price as The Way of Kings Leatherbound edition, so about $200 plus shipping. So if you, like me, are planning to get yourself a copy of Words of Radiance Dragonsteel edition, it might be a good idea to start saving some money now, because yes, the Kickstarter campaign will begin in March, and I think this Kickstarter, just like the first one, which I think accumulated $6.7 million, will be another immensely successful Kickstarter. And finally, the last Sanderson news today is related to the Secret Project Kickstarter campaign. So Sanderson, together with Tor Books and Golangs, have announced that all of them will release the mass market edition of the 4 secret projects. So I will not mention the titles here, but some of you might be asking, what's the difference between getting this one and also the Kickstarter edition? I haven't seen any of the final product here, but if I'm not mistaken, the Kickstarter edition will be a special edition. There will be a custom cover art, and then there will be interior artworks and much higher quality paper. And by pledging to the Kickstarter campaign, you can also have access to the 4 secret novels 3 months earlier than the mass market release date. And I think it is quite safe to assume that the mass market edition will not have any interior artworks, or maybe they will be done in black and white, because the Kickstarter edition, the 4 secret novels, will have full color interior artworks, and I think many more benefits. So yeah, I think there will be some difference. I think we all who pledged to the Kickstarter, many of us who pledged to the Kickstarter campaign know about this. Brandon Sanderson and his team have actually talked about this plenty of times, and I personally cannot wait to read the first secret novel in January. But for the mass market edition, the first book will be released in April 2023, the second secret novel will be released in July 2023, and then the third secret novel will be released in October 2023, and then finally the 4th and final secret novel will be released in January 2024. That's the mass market release date for the 4 secret project novels. So moving on to the next spotlight, and I am a bit late on this, but I just found out that the Sun Eater series by Christopher Ruocchio, I just found out that the 6th book in the Sun Eater series will be the final book in the entire series. And yeah, I think this one is currently planned to be released either at late 2023 or at early 2024. I think that's the current plan right now. That's all I heard anyway, and I haven't started reading this series yet, but I promise that I will start reading and reviewing the Sun Eater series next year. Out of all the series that I've been requested to review, to read and review, this is probably the highest one. And not gonna lie, I am excited about it. Moving on to the next news, Miles Cameron and Gollancz have announced that Deep Black, the sequel to the Artifact Space, a space opera novel in the series called Arcana Imperii, they have announced that the sequel, Deep Black, will be released in 2024. And additionally, Miles Cameron also said there will be 2 more novels after Deep Black, so that makes Arcana Imperii a 4-novel space opera series. Now, Miles Cameron or Christian Cameron has released like probably 30 or 40 novels now. I haven't read many of them. I have pretty much only read The Red Knight and also The Fell Sword, the first 2 books in the Traitor's Son cycle. That's the only 2 books by Miles Cameron that I've read. But I've heard from many people, from many readers, that Artifact Space is one of his best novels. So maybe I will give this one a try someday. I still have many of his historical fiction novels to read. And after that, the next news is about Sons of Darkness by Gourav Mohanty. Sons of Darkness by Gourav Mohanty is one of my favorite books of the year. It is most likely the best fantasy debut of the year, in my opinion anyway. And Gourav Mohanty recently announced on his Twitter account that it will be a bit difficult to get his books for now, because right now Gourav Mohanty is in the middle of trying to get a new publisher to publish Sons of Darkness and also the rest of the series. Gourav Mohanty hasn't released too much details about this, but basically all he said that this is the right choice, the best choice for the future of his series, and I wish Gourav Mohanty all the best of luck in this situation. And then the next news is about Of Wrath and Ruin by Ryan Cahill. This is the 3rd book, the 3rd novel in the Bound and the Broken series. So Ryan Cahill just announced that the release date of the 3rd book will be delayed to January 19, 2023. And also, the word count will be 420,000 words long. That's even bigger than Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. Yeah, it is a massive novel. After reading through the entire The Bound and the Broken series, Of Wrath and Ruin is easily one of my most anticipated books now, and I look forward to reading this book as soon as possible. And moving on to the topic of special edition, still related to Ryan Cahill. So the pre-order link for Of Blood and Fire special edition is now available. So if you want to get yourself a copy of this super gorgeous looking edition, not only it will have 6 black and white interior artwork, it will also have 2 full-color interior artwork, one by Felix Ortiz and one by Randy Vargas, and both of them look amazing. So it looks super beautiful, really. And also the gold color and foiling that you see on the front cover here, or maybe on the naked hardback, Ryan Cahill has said that these will be real gold. So yeah, I think this one will be a truly stunning special edition for a self-published fantasy book, and I hope that the Broken Binding Press will succeed at this, because this might mean something amazing and revolutionary in the publishing business, because most special edition usually revolves around traditionally published books, and Broken Binding Press has mentioned this branch of the Broken Binding will focus on publishing special edition for self-published fantasy books. So yeah, I think this might lead to something amazing in the future. So if you want to get yourself a copy of Blood and Fire special edition, make sure to get it as soon as possible, because this edition is limited to 1,500 copies, and I think it will sold out very soon if it hasn't yet. The pre-order link is up, and I will leave the link to the pre-order in the description down below. And then Broken Binding also announced 2 special edition. One is for the Teixcalaan Duology by Arkady Martine. The first book is A Memory Called Empire, which I've read and enjoyed, and then the second book is A Desolation Called Peace. So this one will have a spray edges that is similar to the Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu, which means that it will showcase the beautiful cover art by Jaime Jones on the spray edges. And the next special edition from the Broken Binding is for Godkiller by Hannah Kanner. I think this one also looks super beautiful. I don't know too much anything about this novel yet, but the cover art looks really nice. And just as a reminder, the Teixcalaan Duology Broken Binding edition and also the Godkiller by Hannah Kanner, all of these are available to buy online. It's not exclusive to those who are subscribed to their subscription. And moving on to the next topic, Midworld Press just announced their special edition for The Black Company by Glen Cook. This will feature a cover art and interior artworks, all of them illustrated by Kai Carpenter, and I think they all look amazing. If I'm not mistaken, unfortunately this edition is sold out now. I know that there are a lot of fans for The Black Company series by Glen Cook, so hopefully Midworld Press will decide to have more copies available for this book in the future. And now, before we move on to the topic of cover reveals, let's talk about 3 Kickstarter projects. And the first one, this will be the last time I talk about the Sword of Kaigen Kickstarter by ML Wang and also Raidmark Creative. So the Kickstarter campaign for the Sword of Kaigen is now finished. And I am truly happy and proud to see that the Sword of Kaigen ended at the number 9 spot for the most funded Kickstarter fiction project. It is amazing and well deserved. It even topped over Shannara and also Fairy Lane by Michael J. Sullivan. It is amazing and I cannot wait to see the final product of this one. For those of you who missed the Sword of Kaigen Kickstarter, the Sword of Kaigen Limited Edition, there will be backer kit available pretty soon. So it is still not too late to get yourself a copy of the limited edition of the Sword of Kaigen. Make sure to keep an eye on the Kickstarter page. And then another Kickstarter project that is about to end soon is Soul by Jacqui Davis and Kay Grierson. So this one is an illustrated novel featuring about 20 full-color artworks from the authors themselves, and the first stretch goal for more illustrations has been met. But the Kickstarter is about to end in 1 or 2 days, so if you want to get yourself a copy of Soul Illustrated Edition, it is not too late. Make sure to check out the Kickstarter page. I have showcased how beautiful this book is on my YouTube channel plenty of times, and the links to those videos are available on the Kickstarter page as well. And the final Kickstarter and special edition I want to spotlight today is for Revenge by AC Cobble. This is the second book in Warhide series, and the Kickstarter campaign for this one will begin tomorrow on the 29th of November. And I think this one will look as good as the first book, maybe even better. The cover art is done by Daniel Kamaruddin, and also the author has revealed one of the interior artwork done by Felix Ortiz inside Revenge. So I actually just got a copy of Conspiracy, the first book in Warhide series by AC Cobble, a few days ago, and my god, this book looks beautiful. Cover art by Daniel Kamaruddin plus the design by Shawn King looks super neat. It's so fitting to my taste. And also this is the spine, this is the back cover, and I also got a bookmark. I want to show something inside here. Seriously, this is something that you have to see. First, this is the map by Soraya Corcoran, and then every chapter in Conspiracy will begin with a black page like this. I think this looks really neat. I love it. And also, this is the front page of the book. See, it looks beautiful. And there will be interior artworks, if I'm not mistaken, 10 by Felix Ortiz. And I've taken some pictures, so allow me to show you some of the interior artworks inside this book. I think it is safe to assume that Revenge, the second book, will be at least as beautiful and stunning as Conspiracy. So make sure to check out the Kickstarter page tomorrow. And now let's move on to the topic of cover reveals, and today we have 5 cover art to talk about. The first one is for The Words of Kings and Prophets by Shauna Lawless. This one is designed and illustrated by Micaela Alcaino. This is the sequel to The Children of Gods and Fighting Men, a historical fantasy novel that I think has been gaining a lot of positive reception. An Irish-inspired historical fantasy novel. And the cover art by Micaela Alcaino matches the first one. I think both of them looks really nice on hardcover, and I know that the Broken Binding has also released their own special edition for The Children of Gods and Fighting Men, and I am pretty confident that the Broken Binding will also release their own special edition for the second book as well. And then the next 2 cover reveals, both of them are published by Orbit Books, and I have the pleasure and privilege and honor to actually reveal them. And the first one is the Bone Shot War by Andrea Stewart. I still haven't read the Bone Shot Emperor yet, but I absolutely love reading the first book, The Bone Shot Daughter, and I look forward to reading both the Bone Shot Emperor and also the Bone Shot War next year. The cover art is done by Sasha Vinogradova. All 3 cover art, including the Bone Shot War, all of them are done by Sasha Vinogradova and designed by Lauren Panepinto. I think all 3 of them looks beautiful. My favorite though will probably be the second one, but the purple color on the Bone Shot War looks super striking. It really pops from the cover art, and I cannot wait to own myself a copy of the Bone Shot War in hardcover as well, just like the first 2 books. And then the next cover reveal will be for The Lost War, the first book in Aidin by Justin Lee Anderson. The Lost War was actually the winner of SPFBO 2019, and it was one of my favorite books, one of my favorite self-published fantasy books. And now, just like the Combat Codes and many other self-published fantasy books, Orbit has made the right decision to traditionally publish The Lost War. I just revealed the cover art to this one on my blog an hour ago, and now I present it to you here. The cover art is done by Jeremy Wilson, and the cover design is again by Lauren Panepinto. I think this one, out of all the cover art that has graced The Lost War, I think this one is the best so far. I really love the green color. The contrast of green and white in the cover art looks really nice. And seriously, this book is amazing. I cannot wait to read the traditionally published edition and then continue with the series. And speaking of the sequel, The sequel, The Bitter Crown, will be released on October 2023. As for the traditionally published edition of The Lost War, the ebook will be released on December 13. So yeah, that's pretty soon. And the paperback or the physical copy will be released on May 2023. And the final two cover reveals I want to share with you today, both of them are illustrated by Felix Ortiz and also designed by Shawn T. So yeah, it is the famous artist duo of the self-published fantasy community. And the first one is for The Bleeding Stone by Joseph John Lee. This is the first book in the Spellbinders and the Gunslingers, and I look forward to reading this one someday. I also had the honor of revealing this cover art last week, and yeah, I really like the cover art here. I think the cover art shows glimpses that the book, this fantasy book, will have elements from other genre like science fiction and maybe even steampunk. But again, I haven't read this one and I look forward to reading it someday. The release date for The Bleeding Stone will be on December 13th. And the final cover reveal today will be for Death's Beating Heart by Rob J. Hayes. This is the fifth and final book in the War Eternal series. I haven't read this series yet by Rob J. Hayes. I have attempted reading through the first book a long time ago, but I felt like I was really in the wrong mood to read that book along the Razor's Edge, so I just put it down and I haven't tried it again. But I want to try it again someday. And come on, this cover art looks super amazing. Felix Ortiz has done such a terrific job on this cover art, and I cannot wait to see his illustration for the hardback edition, because this cover art is for the paperback and also for the ebook edition. The hardback edition will have a new cover art just like the hardback edition of the first three books in the War Eternal series. And the release date for Death's Beating Heart will be December 26. And now moving on to the final section of SFF Spotlight, and that is to talk about new noteworthy release. And today we have two books to talk about. The first one is The Crew by Sadir as Samir, the first book in the God Dust saga. So this one has been pitched as Kings of the Wild meet Deadpool, and I think plenty of reviewers who have read this book have voiced their opinion that this one is a very fun and entertaining fantasy book. I look forward to reading this one. Finger crossed next year, but again, no promises because I have so many books on my TBR pile. I have so many review requests to go through, and the release date of The Crew will be on the 29th of November, so that's tomorrow. And the final noteworthy release I want to spotlight today is again being released on the 29th of November, so tomorrow as well. And that is The Lonesome Crown by Brian Lee Durfee. This is the third and final installment in the 5 Warrior Angel series. I am in the middle of doing a second read of The Blackest Heart right now, and I am having such a blast with it. I cannot wait to read The Lonesome Crown. It is the final book in one of the most underrated fantasy series that I've read, and I think if this actually deliver an even better installment than The Forgetting Moon and also The Blackest Heart, there is no doubt that The 5 Warrior Angels will be one of my favorite completed fantasy series of all time. I look forward to reading The Lonesome Crown pretty soon. So yeah, that's it for today's video. As always, please tell me what you think about these SFF Spotlights, and before the end of the year, I think I will release 2 more SFF Spotlight episodes. That's it for me today. As always, thank you so much for watching, and thank you for constantly supporting me. Bye bye. Lastly, I want to say thank you so much once again to all my patrons who keep on supporting me.